Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. Today we're going to look into the mind of a murderess. Her name is Kellie Earl. She lives inside the Fairlea Women's Prison in Melbourne, Australia. She used to live inside the mind of author, educator, and retired social worker Maggie Charters.
My characters are always dealing with mental health issues, which is what happens to Kellie Earl, and that's her downfall.
Her new book is called I Am Kellie Earl, Peace Carries a Cost. Here's the prologue. Exposed and naked, I stood in one of the prison's whitewashed shower cubicles. There were full-height walls on both sides and a waist-high swing door to preserve some modesty. The single shower head had a mind of its own, with both the temperature and the water pressure fluctuating at will. Now, warm water gently splashed onto my long, grey-flecked hair. I considered that at 45 years of age, I was too young to start showing signs of aging. But sometimes nature and attitude don't match. And besides, inside Fairlea Women's Prison, I didn't have access to Andre, my private hairdresser, for many years. As I pushed my feelings of regret and self-pity to the back of my mind, the warm liquid washed away the dust I'd collected in my daily walk around the concrete yard. It snaked down my lithe form, it cleansed my body, but not my mind. The persistent dirt that caked my reasoning was untouched. Water has no impact on the grime that festers in your soul and pusses your eyelids together till no one can look inside. They say that your eyes are the windows of your soul. So maybe I don't have a soul, but that explanation is too simple. And my story is far from simple.
Because I'm, interested in psychology and philosophy, I've got a lot of philosophy in it because when Kellie's in prison, she has time to engage in reading books on philosophy, and she sort of tries to analyse all the prisoners, and while she's doing that, it gives the reader insights into what the philosophers used to think in days of old and how their thinking is still very relevant to today. We're still the same as we were hundreds of years ago. We still feel all the same emotions. So everything that was written centuries ago is still very relevant today.
Kellie is a child of the 50s, living in Melbourne, Australia, the same place and the same time that the Victorian government built the state's first all-female prison. Maggie did some extensive research for this book, and the attention to historic detail had me thinking that maybe this was a real story.
No, it's not true. No, not at all. No, all the characters, and there's some very dark characters who come out light. We see behind their foil, we see, what sort of led them to their downfall, like in the prison system, and I tried to show people that there's good in everyone and don't judge a book by its cover. And so when we meet people with problems in the prison system and outside of the prison system, I try and let the reader see behind them what led to their downfall and what caused their psychological challenges, for want of a better word.
One of those psychological challenges she referred to is probably the abusive influence that changed Kellie Earl into Miss Zed, a cold-hearted murderess.
Well, Kellie Earl, she's a writer, and she finds that writing stories from an early age is her escape mechanism because she has an abusive stepfather who sexually abuses her, and she can't tell her mother because they're financially dependent on him. So Kellie writes stories. That's her escape mechanism from her harsh world. And she's really good at it, and she gets awards. And when she gets married, she gets out of the home, and she writes books, best-selling books. But when her husband dies, her world sort of falls apart, and then ultimately she wants revenge on the stepfather. So I'm not allowed to tell too much. I'm not allowed to give the plot away.
No, of course not. That would ruin everything.
So even when she goes to prison, she tries to put everything into perspective and writes a book and puts all the prisoners in, or some of the prisoners in her book, and they're really excited and they're all telling her their story.
And if you're starting to think that this is just another book about women in prison, think again. The backstory is amazing. It's full of history. There are plenty of other characters to enjoy, like George, the villain who becomes the victim, because Kellie feels like she was set up to kill this monster of a man.
Well, yeah, and particularly with George, he's sort of the arch villain who led to Kellie's downfall, because she does kill him for revenge, but also we'll feel sympathetic towards him because as his story unfolds, we see what led to him being like he is. He's a bit like the Joker. If you've seen the film The Joker, we sort of feel sorry for the Joker. He's a very flawed character.
Hopefully this isn't giving away too much, but this book also has some tender moments.
There's some very dark characters, but they're also very kind people, so they have a strong capacity to hate, but they also have a strong capacity to love.
And then there's the mom.
Oh, gee, I'm going to cry when the mum dies. Oh, I cry every time I think about that.
The book is called I Am Kellie Earl, Peace Carries a Cost. Why the subtitle, Peace Carries a Cost? Come on, haven't you heard enough already? We have to leave something to the imagination. This book is a reminder that you are not alone and that you, your problems, and your experiences are not unique, as much as we like to think so. If you're having problems with mental health, definitely seek some help and never give up trying to strive for peace and leave the judgment to a higher power. People aren't always as bad as they seem.
People are complex, and don't take everyone at face value and just give people a second chance. People make mistakes, but they can be redeemed, they can be forgiven, and people can change, and there's good in everyone. And that's about it. Just all get along.
Was Kellie really innocent? Maybe she was the victim after all, or was she just too cute to really be anything but charming? One thing is for sure. Kellie Earl traveled the dark walls of Fairlea Women's Prison and found light at the end of a dismal tunnel. The book I Am Kellie Earl, Peace Carries a Cost by Maggie Charters is available right now on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Better World Books, and lots of other places. And that will do it for this fictional crime edition of Newsgram from WebTalkRadio.com.